I came across this quote the other day. The main reason to establish creative practices is to increase your capacity for insight and brilliance, not simply to cram more things to your life or, here's the interesting part, hack your creative process in some way. So that got me thinking about life hacks, about shortcuts, about things you can try and do in order to be more productive, or things you can do to be more creative, or things you can do to be more successful or make more money, or whatever number of things. We are obsessed with shortcuts. Shortcuts are amazing because when a shortcut works, then you don't have to go through all the work of it. But shortcuts are a little bit overrated. Life hacks are not as amazing as people may talk about them. And so a shortcut and a life hack for this video is going to be anything that is a little bit easier, that is a way that other people aren't thinking about in order to get somewhere that people cannot get without the life hack. So the life hack is a way to bypass work. That's how I'm going to define it here. Now there are some great life hacks. Sometimes that's used in a different way. And so in this specifically, we're talking about life hacks that are a little bit of a shortcut. And so here are 9 facts, in no particular order, about life hacks that you probably don't want to hear. The first one, if you were to hack the stock market, not like break in, infiltrate, but like you were to come up with a hack in order to figure out how to make more money in the stock market, well, you would have figured out one way to make money in the stock market. And once somebody discovers a hack, a bunch of other people jump in, and that one person may get rich, and then the entire stock market shifts that way. I think about the time when trading became lightning fast because of the internet. Well, now you have a type of trading that's super fast and is beating the other trades, is making money. Well, then someone else is going to get a computer, and then the entire stock market is going to shift in that direction. Over the years, the stock market just shifts different ways, different trading strategies. And once one becomes popular, then everyone does it. And so if you're trying to hack it, if you're trying to find a shortcut than just waiting for a stock to slowly grow, you may find a hack, but then once it adapts, you haven't actually figured out the hack. You've just figured out one hack. And that one hack is not going to help you once everything adapts to that one hack. And so sometimes life hacks and shortcuts, they're amazing the first time. And then once everything adapts to it, since you've done the hack or you've done the shortcut, you don't know how to go about the real way. And so you've actually learned something that's hurtful in the long run. Second thing, this is one that is fun to hear. Hacks are useful. Don't get me wrong, a good life hack, a good shortcut, every once in a while, it is amazing. And when you have a shortcut and you deserve that shortcut, it's nice. But it also comes with its set of problems. But we can't ignore the fact that life hacks can be incredibly useful and fun. Number 3, I wanted to be a movie director early on. And so at one point, I remember fantasizing and dreaming about directing a Marvel movie when I was 18. And I thought it would have been great because I would be more creative. It'd be a wonder-kind story. It'd be awesome. But I would have been a terrible director at 18. I might have had a really creative strategy and I might have had a really cool story and it may have been okay. Like I might have had a bunch of people help me along the way. But just because you can do something and you shortcut and jump through all the hoops and become in the spot doesn't mean that you're going to be capable to do it. As one quote says, ability may get you to the top, but it takes character to keep you there. And just thinking about so many people who've gone through so many different situations and they've made a shortcut or been gifted some area that they don't quite have the skills for, they're actually going to do a poorer job than if they work their way up the ladder the normal way. Now you can work your way up the ladder fast, but to completely bypass a step is actually going to cause hurt. If you put a toddler on the top of a ladder, it's not going to be a good thing. The toddler has taken a shortcut, and the toddler did not climb up the ladder and learn how to climb up the ladder, and so therefore the toddler will probably fall. It's not a great thing to always bypass a shortcut that actually should be building your muscle. I think of the opposite of that, the times when I first worked camp, 2022, and I saw the next step, and so I worked that 2023, and then I saw the next step, and I worked that next step in 2024, and I got better and better and better. And I think of the people who have bypassed some of those middle steps. They worked their first role, and then they just jumped straight to the top role. And they were fine, they did okay, but they weren't nearly as highly capable as they could have been if they did work their way up the roles and been thinking about it and been preparing for it and been gifted that place out of a place of deserving. Number 4, we all think we are the exception. Every single person somehow thinks that they're the exception, unless they're just really down in the dumps and don't have much self-esteem. I don't think it's a bad thing to think you're the exception, but life hacks, we just always think we're the exception. I think I'm the exception all the time. I just think, well, everyone else is doing it this way. I'm thinking about it the right way. I'm going to be the exception. And it's just part of reality. Shortcuts and life hacks, we all think we're the person who can do it and we're the exception and it's going to be great. Number 5, life hacks do work for a season. I think about how you can get up early, and that's a life hack. You get up early and you are more productive. You get more done. You feel great about the day. But then you get up early for several weeks in a row, and then eventually you get more tired because you aren't getting as much sleep. And after a while, a life hack that was helpful at first is no longer as helpful. Or you start getting to work early so that you can be creative and productive while nobody else is there to distract you. And then day 2, you get there early and it's still great. Day 3, you get there early, it's still great. Week 3, you get there early and it's still great. But then over time, you start getting there earlier and you just start getting your work done earlier. You start checking emails earlier and you aren't actually using it to be creative or have your incredible output, and you're just getting there earlier, but it's not actually helping your creative process. So there's a lot of things that you start out doing and it's great. You start out reading, or you start out doing this, or you start out having these conversations, or start out asking these questions, or start out this process. And the first few steps of the process are great. The beginner's high is great. And then that life hack just kind of fades away and you don't have the buzz of it and it's no longer as fun. And you realize it's just a habit and a practice that you should probably be doing, and not just a life hack that's going to work once. I think a lot of life hacks that I've tried that have been great, and then I just kind of fell off because the short-term effect was fun, but it didn't really help in the long run. In a lot of ways, people are using AI to do their job. It helps at first. It seems to do something really cool, but it can't finalize it. It can't do that last 5% that only a human can do. And so they spend a lot of time trying to make it a hack, and it's actually hurting them in the long run, because hacks are helpful in the short term, but they don't work over the long haul. Just like a drug, if you're a drug addict, a little dose is all you need at first. And over time, you just have to keep increasing the dose or increasing the version of the drug. Number 6, you can pass the quiz, but you're going to utterly fail the test. You can do a life hack, or you can find a shortcut around some part of life. And it's like the quiz. You can bypass that quiz. You can cheat. You can find a way to get through it. You can use some code to get through it, whatever. If you bypass and take a shortcut and find a life hack, it may be great. But it means when you come up later and you need the skill that you would have learned in that situation, but you used a life hack to get around, well, now it's not very helpful. Now you're in a worse spot because you have to go back, and it's humiliating to go back to that season of life where you were supposed to be learning something, or where this job was supposed to teach you this, and instead you used a life hack or found some cheat code to get around it. Shortcuts are not shortcuts. They're actually harder in the long run, but it makes you feel better in the short term. And that's kind of all of life, instant gratification. Number 7, we are trying to turn the oven on and it's not even plugged in. A lot of life hacks and a lot of shortcuts are great advice from people, and they're giving you the top layer of the cake. They're showing you how to do this little thing, but that thing is determined on what is underlying it. So they're showing you how to turn an oven on using the little knob perfectly, or how to punch in the perfect code, or how to use the timer. And we're thinking, oh, this is really cool. This is a great way to get rich, or this is a great thing to do when you're a top tier filmmaker, or this is what you do when you're an entrepreneur. This is a cool life hack. But they're teaching you how to push the buttons on the oven, and your oven isn't even plugged in. You got to make sure the main things are in place before you start adapting the little tweaks and life hacks. I really think of all the filmmakers and incredible filmmakers who are directing billion-dollar movies, and they give some advice, and it's great advice, but it really only applies if you are working on a very substantial high-budget movie. And if you're just a little indie filmmaker doing stuff all on your own, it might be helpful to think through their process, but it's not very helpful to follow that exact advice, or you're splitting hairs when the dog is about to bite you. Number 8, we hear about newsworthy events. We don't really hear about the long, mundane grind. And so if you were to read any business magazine or read success books or all these different things, you tend to notice the people that did things in a short term. I think of the book Power Moments. It talks about these really cool stories of life change, or these cool moments that happen. And the things that are noteworthy and get attention and are cool and look at and inspire us are typically the things that are abnormal. The things that are just slow, normal, process, daily, long cut version of life are not as fascinating and are not as newsworthy. And so when we're surrounded by newsworthy things of life hacks and shortcuts and YouTubers telling us this and this cool advice, or this cool influencer is doing this thing, and we think that's the way to do it. It's a life hack. It's perfect. Here's the shortcut that's going to work in my career and money or in whatever season of life. And it just is actually going to come back to bite you. Because something's on the news, or because something's newsworthy, or you hear about it, doesn't mean that's the way everyone is going about it in the way that actually works. The abnormal things are the things that get our attention. Number 9, last one, is by using a life hack or a shortcut, you're saying that you are not content with where you're at. In a lot of ways, it's a good thing. because success comes from wanting to get something better. Progress comes from not wanting to accept where you're at. Change happens when people are fed up with where they're at. And it's a good thing to not be content in a lot of areas, because that's where improvement comes from. But if you don't learn to enjoy where you're at, and you're always looking for a shortcut and looking for a life hack to get out of the long way of doing things, you aren't going to learn to enjoy the work. You aren't going to learn to enjoy the boredom. And then when you get to where you want to be at, you're not going to be prepared, and you're not going to have the muscle to do it. You're not going to want to do it. You're not going to enjoy the work. You just enjoy the fleeting bit of success and being successful, but you don't actually like the work. And so if you don't learn to enjoy where you're at, you're never going to enjoy anywhere where you're at, even if it is the next best thing. You may enjoy it for a season, but you aren't going to enjoy it long term. What other facts do you have? Put them in the comments, but those are 9 facts I was thinking of when I think about long-term and short-term and shortcuts and long cuts and life hacks and ways to get ahead, because I'm always looking for ways, and I have to remind myself that it's not always better to take a shortcut.